Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, Kesubos Yud Zayin. We begin on Tes Zayin Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a brisa. Meragdin lifnei hakala. How are we meant to dance and sing and chant and praise the kala? So how are we meant to do this in order to endear the kala on the chassan, in order to generate harmony, happiness for the young couple? Beis Shammai Omrim, you say it the way it is. You have to be truthful and honest. That was Beis Shammai's approach everywhere in Torah. Strict, to the point. Kala k'mais shehi. You relate to the kala as is. Don't add any extra praise or exaggeration. Ubeis Hillel Omrim, no. Sometimes you have to flower things up a bit. Kala na'a v'chasuda. Wow, what a great kala. She exudes pleasantness. V'chasuda. She exhibits grace. Irrelevant, irrespective of who she is. You praise her to the sky. How can you do this? Let's say she's one with a limp or blind or any other character deficiency, perhaps. How can you just ignore that? How can you praise her regardless? Even in that case, you're going to say, oh, she's the greatest kala. What about the pasuk? You're meant to distance yourself from falsehood. So how can you misrepresent the truth? Beis Hillel respond. It's not considered a misrepresentation of the truth. This is the truth. It's all about how he perceives his kala. It's all in the eyes of the beholder. So they responded to Beis Shammai. According to your argument, what happens if your friend purchased merchandise which, in your opinion, is of inferior quality? That's your personal opinion. He approaches you and asks you for approval, for opinion. What are you meant to do? What does the Torah want you to do? Be honest? Say it the way it is? Give a negative response when this fellow already purchased the item and it's his? Evidently he wanted it. So when he asks you for your opinion, if it's already after the fact, he already purchased it, Yishabchenu be'einav? Should he praise? Should he be positive to him? Or Yiganenu be'einav? Or should he be honest and negative to him? Havi Omer? The answer is certainly Yishabchenu be'einav. You're meant to be positive and full of praise for the item that he already purchased. Here as well, this is his kala. Don't worry about honesty. Don't worry about midvar sheker tirchak. Worry about being mechavev the isha al bala. Worry about promoting shalom bayis, simcha and harmony amongst the couple. Mikan amru chachamim, based on this, the chachamim tell us la'olam tehedata shel adam me'ureves im habriyos. A person should always seek to relate to others on their level, according to their perspective and their mindset. Don't be so busy with your opinion, with your approach. Relate to the person according to his needs. The Maharsha explains the Gemara like this: the fact that a person purchased an item is indicative of his attraction to that item, or the fact that it appears nice and beautiful and attractive in his eyes. So it's not a sheker. And in fact, that's why the Gemara says, the Maharal elaborates on this as well. He says the Gemara uses the word Yishabchenu be'einav, in his eyes. Yiganenu be'einav, in his eyes. Why does the Gemara pick the word be'einav? That's the whole point. In his eyes. That's what matters. In the eyes of the beholder, the eyes of the owner. If in his eyes this thing is nice and beautiful, just support that. Be there for him. And that is emes. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky used to say, people think emes is what happened, and Sheker is misrepresenting, the fact. He says it's a bit inaccurate. You know what emes means? Emes means what you are supposed to say, what the Torah dictates as truth. What the Torah tells you to say, that's emes. This fellow married an Isha. Evidently, this was meant for him. She appeared fine in his eyes. And now you're at the wedding. Praise her. Put in a good word. Kalonah v'chasuda. It's all a matter of how she appears in his eyes. And to him, she's a kalonah v'chasuda. That's the emes. In fact, there's a Gemara elsewhere. Shalosh chenois hein. There are three elements of grace. One is chen isha al bala, that a husband finds grace in his wife. It's personal. Hashem made it that way. If she's meant for him, then she'll find grace in his eyes. Perhaps not in the next person's eyes, because she was meant for him, not for him. The same thing with a purchase. The Gemara says, chen mekach al leichai, an item on its owner. The owner likes his items. And the same thing with community. Chen mokom al yoshav. You live in a town, in a city, you swear by that city. This is my place, this is my hometown. It's personal, because it's meant for you. Hashem, this is what He had in mind. You should live in this town, buy this house, marry this wife. So all these things will find favor in your eyes. And that's exactly why you meant to. Praise her. Praise her to the sky. Kalonah v'chasuda. That's the emes, that's the truth. Continues the Gemara. Kiyas Rav Dimi. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar, he related as follows. Hachi mashru kame kalsa b'ma'arava. In Ma'arava and Eretz Yisrael, this is how they used to sing and chant before the Kala. Like chal, no need for eye makeup, v'loi srak, no need for face makeup, v'loi pirchas, no need for hairdos, v'yalas chen. She has the grace, the beauty of a yalas chen, like a mountain goat, a yael, who's exuding grace. It's internal grace that we see. Ki samchu rabbanon Rabbi Zera, when the rabbanon took Rabbi Zera and they made him into a rav, into a dayan, they applied smicha on him. Shar lehachi, the crowd would chant as follows: like chav leishrak pirchas. No need for all these adornments. It's internal beauty. V'yalas chen. Ki samchu rabbanon Rabbi Amir Rabbi Asi, when they did smicha to the other rabbanon, shar lehachi, likewise, those in attendance chanted as follows. They chanted in approval. Look, these are the best candidates for smicha. Kol, all mindain, from these types of chachamim, meaning these types of chachamim. This is great. V'chol mindain, and all of from these types of chachamim, smucha lana, you should apply smicha and make them dayanim for us. Lo yisismuchu lana, don't choose for us leimin sarmisin, the chachamim who pervert the halachas, v'leimin sarmitin, those who can't explain what they're saying. Well, Amrila, some have a different version of this chant, leimin chamisin, like lashon of chamas. They're incomplete. They don't explain at all. V'leimin turmisin, empty ones, not fully saturated with Torah internally. But these Rabbanan, Rabbi Amir, Rabbi Asi, you couldn't get better than that. The totally internally consistent and externally articulate. Rabbi Vo, so he was a big chacham, and he was one who frequented the court of the Kesar, of the Roman ruler. When he used to come from the yeshiva of the Kesar to the home of the Kesar, the Amhosa, the maidservants of the Kesar's home, would go out and greet him, la'apei, towards him, and chant towards him as follows. Rabbi de Amei, he's the Nasi of his nation, Barna de Umse, the leader of his nation. Buitzina de Nahira, a pillar of fire, he exuded such radiant countenance. Brich masech l'shalom, it should be your coming should be blessed for peace, like saying Boryachem l'shalom. Amru Allah, so even the non-Jewish maidservants appreciated and recognized his high stature. There's a story with the Brisker Rav during the war. He was on the run, and they were in a wagon, him and his sons, and he was wearing a very expensive gold watch, which would serve him well later on during the war. It's good to have something really valuable with you at that type of time. And they stopped him. The Nazis stopped him on the road, and they took him off the wagon. And one of the Nazis removed the Brisker Rav's watch from his hand, and his superior noticed that. He says, "What are you doing?" He was like shaken by he was awed by the countenance of the tzaddik, and he says, "Give it back to him right away," without explaining. He just forced him to give it back to him, and he got it back, and it served him well eventually during the war. So even a guy sometimes can be awed and taken by the appearance of a tzaddik. Amru alav, back to the Simchas Chassan V'Kala. Amru alav al Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai. The following was said about Rabbi Yehuda Shahiyah Noitel Bad Shal Hadas. He would take a branch, a shoot of a myrtle, of a hadas, umarakid lefnei kala, and use it to dance in front of the kala. V'ayman, he would say, Kala na'av v'chasuda. Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak merakid atlas. He would dance. He would juggle 3 branches in front of the kala, and this was his way of generating simcha. Amr Zera, it's inappropriate for an elder, tzaddik like you. Kamachsif lon saba, you're the elder chacham. You're embarrassing us. This is a zilzal. This is a degradation of the kavod HaTorah. Why are you doing this? But he insisted. He carried on. In fact, Kinoch Nafshe, when he passed away, Hashem confirmed, the greatness of what he did. That he was willing to degrade himself to generate simchas chassan v'kala. And what happened upon his death? Ifsik amuda denura, a pillar, a beam of fire, came down and formed a wedge between himself and the day between the tzaddik who had just passed away, Lukuli Am, and all others in attendance, basically indicating that he's in a world of his own. He's a man of such high stature. Ugemiri, and we have a Kabbalah from our teachers, Afsik amuda denura. This idea of the pillar coming down and separating is only once in a lifetime. Ela ilachad bedara. It happens only to one person in an entire der. Ilatre bedara, or 2 people in a generation. This is something really unique and a confirmation of his b'moiser nefesh for simchas chassan v'kala. Hamar Reb Zera noticed this plume of light. He said, "Wow, ahanile shutise la saba." Wow. The shutise, Rashi says, the shut shel hadas, the branch. Basically, his antics in front of the kala really helped him. Ahanile, it helped him. It served him well. Look what kind of high stature he has achieved. V'amila, some had a different version of this expression, that he said, "Ahanile shtuse la saba." Shtus is lashon of shtus, of silliness, and willing to degrade yourself in front of the kala. That brought about this reaction from Shemayim, this beam of light. V'amila, there was a third version, shita se la saba. The shita, the custom, the practice, through thick and thin, through praise and criticism. He just went at it, kept on going, insisted on performing this antic in front of the chassan v'kala. That served him well. That's what separates the men from the boys. Sticking to it, sticking to your guns. You have principle. You have a mahalach. You have a system which you believe in. You just keep on going, despite criticism. Rav Acha, he did something unique at a wedding. Markiv la katfei. He would ride the kala up on his shoulders. Umaraki, then dance in that manner. Amr le Rabbanan. The Rabbanan asked him, "Is that for us as well?" Anan. Mahu le'me'aved hachi. Is it okay for us to follow suit and do the same thing? Amrlu, he says, look, it depends on your level. Idamyan alaychav kikshurav, the kalais would appear to you like beams, meaning, you look at her like just a beam. Marsha says like a beam in a house, because an isha is meant to build a home. So if that's how you relate to the kala, and it doesn't arouse any negative feelings within you, l'chaye, then it's okay. V'loy, but otherwise, loy, it's not meant for you to do. Omar Shmuel bar Achmeni or B'yenason mutar l'stakel b'fnei kala kol shiva. Typically, we don't gaze at an isha, but it is mutar to gaze at a kala throughout the 7 days of Mishteh, k'dei l'chava v'al balo, to generate dearness in her husband's eyes when he sees that she's the center of attraction. But the Gemara concludes, not so. Less hilchas hakavasei, the halacha does not follow the shita. We have to be extra careful even during the time of Sheva Brachas, that factor does not justify. Tan Rabbanan, we learned in a Brayso. Suppose we have two groups of people walking along the road. One of them are escorting a kala to the wedding, and then the other group is walking with a mace to Kvura. Which one takes precedence? Which one gets the right of way? Tana Rabbanan, certainly the live person takes priority. Ma'avir nesa mace milfnei kala. We push aside, so to speak, the group of people walking with the mace to enable the kala to come through with her procession. So that takes priority. We push aside both groups milfnei melech Yisrael to make room for the king who's coming by. Amru alav al Agrippas HaMelech. However, Agrippas HaMelech, he humbled himself, and the following was said about him: She'avar milfnei kala. He actually made way for the kala to go ahead. V'shibchu chachamim, and chachamim praised him. Apparently, he was praiseworthy. Really, shibchu? Why would they praise him? Mechlal d'shaper abed. Does that mean he did right? He degraded the office. It was a zilzal for the office, for the position of melech. That's not his. It's not up to him to do that. V'amar of Ashi. Even according to the shita that holds that a nasi who does away with his honor, he's meichel on his kavod. Kavodah machal. He can do that. It's an effective mechila, but that's only a nasi. But a melech is on an entirely different plane. The position of malchus is really something which mirrors Hashem's malchus in Shemayim. This is how the Ramban explains this halacha. A melech is totally different. Melech represents Hashem's kingdom. Melech shemachal al kvoidei, ain't kvoidei machal of a king. Does away with his own honor. We don't accept that. We don't go with that. You can't be meichel on the covet of a king. The Amar Mar, the pasuk says soim tasim alecha melech. Soim tasim. That's a redundant lashon. Place upon yourself malchus. We learn from here shetehei a masoy elecha. Rashi says soim and tasim, many placements. That's an indication of a very high, untouchable position. Shetehei a masoy elecha is awe, is fear descends upon you, meaning you can't do away with the covet of a melech. So how could he be meichel on his covet and allow the kala, the right of way? Parashas drachim avoy. It wasn't so clear and evident that he was negating himself, because it was just like a crossroads, and he just knew that the kala was coming, so he allowed her to pass through, and he turned the other way. It didn't appear, it wasn't obvious that he was negating his covet. Even when one is learning Torah, he has to stop in order to attend a levaya or a wedding. And many Mefarshim learn, we're speaking that he's actually observing, it's in front of him, so you have to stop what you're doing and join the procession. Amr alav. Al Rabbi Yehuda Bar Bilai, the following was said about Rabbi Yehuda Shayimavatal Talmud Torah. Although he was totally immersed in Torah, that was his life. Torasay umanasay, still he would not hesitate to stop learning Shayimavatal Talmud Torah in order to do these mitzvahs, letzas hameis, carrying out the mace, lachnas kala, and bringing in the kala to the chuppah. B'medvar mamur, when do we say that all have to stop? Because she'ein ima kol tzorchay, when the mace, it doesn't have enough to accord him proper honor. Aval yeshim ekol tzorka, but if there are enough in attendance to give the mace his deserving honor, emavatlan, then we don't have to stop learning for that sake. V'kama kol tzorka, what's considered enough for him? Amar Rav Shmuel bar Ini mishmei derav. A pretty large number. Trei sar alfei gavri, no less than 12,000 people. Vishita alfei shipuri, plus 6,000 people blowing a shofar, letting everybody know what's going on. Va'amrila, some had a different version. Tlei sar alfei gavri, 13,000 people. Uminayu shita alfei shipuri, from the 13,000 you have 6,000 of them blowing the shofar. Ula Amar, he had a different pshat. What is considered an appropriate amount of people by the levaya? Kegoin, for instance, the chaitzi gavri. There are enough people to create a partition, a chatzitz, a continuous train of people, me'abula, from the gate of the city, v'atzichra, until the Beis HaKvaris. If you have enough people for that, that's considered sufficient. Rav Sheshes, v'yitem Rabbi Yehuda Amar, he had a different shot. Nitilasa, the amount of people in attendance when the Torah is sort of taken away from the world. When a person is nifter, his learning stops. Every person has his own personal portion in the Torah, the part that he's meant to learn, his perspective on learning. When that's idle, nitilasa, when that's removed from the world, kinisinasa, it's meant to be equated as when the Torah was given. And we know how many were at attendance when the Torah was given to us. Manisinasa b'shishim ribu, just as the Torah was given among 600,000 Yidden. After tilasa b'shishim ribu, likewise when it's taken away, when an neshama departs this world with its Torah, it's meant to be accompanied by 600,000 Yidden. This applies only to a person who learned Chumash and Tanakh, V'tani and Mishnayos, but hadn't yet arrived at the point of being a mashpia, of being a teacher to others. So then these numbers would suffice. But a person who actually was zeicha to give Torah over to others, that's a higher level, less l'shiur. There's no shir, there's no set, there's no maximum. In terms of how many people should be in attendance, there's no end, there's no limit. Let's go back to the Mishnah. So there's a disagreement as to how much ksuba payment this Isha deserves. She claims, I married as a besula. He says, no, you're an almana. There are Edom to testify that she exhibited the simanim of a besula when she married. For instance, she left her parents' home on the way to the wedding with a hinuma, which was unique to a besula. Then we know she was a besula when married. My hinuma, what exactly is this? Surcha bar papa mishmei di ziri amar. So he said in the name of Ziri, Tanura da'asa. Tanura means, it's a lashon of tanura, an oven. It just means like a round canopy made of hadassim. This was something unique for the Bisula. Interesting. Surcha bar papa, isn't that one of the names we have by the Yisiyim, one of Rav Papa's 10 sons? Pretty unique to find him in Shas. Surcha bar papa. You know where else we had him? A couple of days ago on Daf. Not him, another son of Rav Papa. Also unique here on Daf Chesam Aleph. We had Rav Papa was marrying his son Abba Mar. I think Abba is also one of the names at the end of Masechta. So Abba Rav Papa, Surcha Rav Papa. So anyways, he says, what is the simon we're speaking? That's the canopy made of hadassim. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, karisa, it means a veil. It's referring to a veil, the menamna bakalsa, under which the kala sometimes dozes when she's out of view. So in any case, these were unique for Besula and a raya as to her status. Rabbi Yehuda Barka Omer, he gives another simon. They would hand out the kloyos, the sweetened grain. Tana, we learned in the Braisa, the Yehuda Raya. So all these simanim were applicable in the Yehuda territory of Eretz Yisrael. These were simanim unique to a Besula. Bebavel Mai, what about a Bavel? Amar Rav, the simon for a Besula's marriage in Bavel is as follows. Dar Dugi de Mishcha, smearing of oil, Aresha de Rabbanon, on the heads of the Rabbanon in attendance. Rashi says the Talmidim. Okay, so the young Rabbanim. Amar le Rav Papa Abai. Rav Papa asked Abai, what do you mean smearing of oil? Why do we smear oil on people's heads? Do they have a rash or something? Mishcha de chafifusa kamar. Are you speaking about oil meant for soothing a rash or boils or something like that? What's the deal with the oil? Amar le, Abai responded, apparently you're not so familiar with this practice. Yasma, the lashon of a yasam. It doesn't literally mean a yasam. It means that he's a yasam from this thing. He's unfamiliar with this thing. He's missing. He never had this experience. Yasma, like Abdullah imech. Your mother didn't do this for you. Dar duge mishcha aresha the rabbanon, smearing of oil on the heads of the talmidim mishas masa during your wedding. You don't have it. That's why you're not familiar with it. But this was a common practice during the marriage of a Besula. Kiha, as we find in the following story, Dahumi Rabbanon, there was this certain Talmud, certain Chacham, the Asik Lebrei, who arranged a shidduch for his son, married off his son, Bey in the home with a family of Rabbi Bar Ula. But Amr some had a different version. It was Rabbi Bar Ula who married off his son, the Asik Lebrei, Bey, with a family of Ahumi Rabbanon, the other Chacham. In any case, the point is V'dardig Mishcha, and he smeared this oil, Aresha the Rabbanon, on the heads of the Rabbanon Mishas Masa during the wedding, as we explained before. Armalta Mai. What would they do to indicate that she's not a Besula, rather an Almona? To make it clear to avoid any confusion? Was there something specific for an almana? The answer is yes. Tani Rav Yosef Armalta Lesla Kisni. They did not hand out the kisni, the kloyes, the roasted grain. This was a simon that she was an almana. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah. Umaydi Rabbi Yeshua ba'im l'chaver v'chulu. Rabbi Yeshua addresses Rabbi Gamliel. He says like this. Typically, I don't necessarily consider the fellow's claim as fact when it comes to monetary claims. But in this case, this is unique. Here we believe him. What is the case? Shimon approaches Reuven and says, look, this field over here, the field that I am in possession of, actually used to belong to your father, and I purchased it from your father. We believe him. Pesha asar, pesha iter. This fellow created the concern, and then he rectified the concern. In the same breath. It used to be to your father's, and I purchased it. We have to believe it. Because either you believe everything or nothing. So since he's the one who volunteered that information, he shared it voluntarily. You have to go with it. Then the Mishnah concludes, well, if the information came by way of another source, suppose there were Edom, two witnesses who come forth and say, this field used to belong to Reuven's father. That sort of pulls the rug out of Shimon's claim because he's no longer volunteering that information. That information is known to us from the Edom. So now when Shimon gets up and says, well, yeah, it used to belong to Reuven's father, but I purchased it, prove your case. So otherwise he's not believed. Why mix in the father? The listening, the Mishnah should simply say, Rabbi Yeshua would agree in the following case. Shimon approaches Reuven directly. Sadezu, this field over here, Shalcha used to belong to you. I admit, it used to belong to you. And I purchased it from you. So since Shimon is the one acknowledging that it was Reuven's field, it's coming from him. Since he's the source of information, you have to believe him all the way. On the one hand, yeah, it used to belong to Reuven, but Shimon purchased it. So why do you need to mix the father into the equation? The same halacha would hold in this case as well. You're right. Mishum the Kabbalah misn is safe. On account of the halacha and the seifa, that's why we mix in the father. The halacha in the second part of the Mishnah presents well because of the father aspect included, as we'll see. What's the next halacha? The Edom, right? If there are Edom around, if instead of this fellow volunteering the information, Edom came and tell us about it, that it used to belong to the other fellow, he claims he purchased it, he's not believed. Hey Chidami, what's the case? If Shimon used it for 3 years, the years of Chazaka is Sugin Baba Basra, basically as follows. Typically, a purchaser would have to produce a shtar, a document, to prove its purchase. But, let's be reasonable. Nobody would hold on to their shtar forever. So after a set amount of years, 3 years of use, the purchaser no longer is expected to produce a shtar. The very fact that the alleged owner, the seller, is not protesting throughout those 3 years, that's the biggest indicator that indeed he sold it. Why are you waking up after 3, 5, 10 years and claiming that it's yours? That is the halacha of Shnei Chazaka, years of Chazaka. So now, Mishnah says, if Edom inform us that this field used to belong to Reuven's father, and now Shimon claims that he purchased it from Reuven, how many years passed? Hey Chidami, what's the case? It's already passed, 3 years. Why is that not enough to believe Shimon? That it's his, that he purchased it from Reuven's father. If he didn't have Chazaka, obviously is not Neman. What's the Chiddush? So bottom line is, if it's just a case of it's yours, it's mine, there would be no Chiddush in the Mishnah. If he has the Chazaka, of course it's his. If he doesn't have the Chazaka, then it's not Neman. So that's why the Mishnah had to discuss something regarding a father, because including the father aspect into the equation would add Chiddush. Why? As we'll see. Yach, if that's the case, Gabi Aviv Nami, adding the father into the picture. It used to be your father. Why would that help matters? The same kasha would apply. If this alleged buyer already has 3 years of chazaka, why isn't he believed? If he does not have chazaka, of course he's not believed. Well, certainly if we speak about a father involved, then we can work out a chiddush. The chiddush will be in the following case. What happened was that we have Edom. The field used to belong to Reuven's father. Shimon steps forward and claims he purchased it from Reuven's father. How many years passed? Well, that's a bit tricky. Technically, it's been 3 years. It's been Shnei Chazaka. But it was split. 2 years occurred during father's lifetime. So he started the Chazaka process then, but he only concluded the Chazaka after Mr. Father's passing. The third year of the 3 years of Chazaka took place during the son's lifetime. And that doesn't work. It has to be one or the other. Because Mr. Son isn't necessarily aware of what happened during his father's lifetime. It's not one continuum of Chazaka. He's not expected to protest when he has no idea that this thing belongs to him. Ukta Rav Huna, Damar Rav Huna, as Rav Huna tells us, this very same halacha. Ein machzike b'nichse katan afilu higdal. If somebody passes away and another fellow walks into the field and holds on to it for 3 years, that doesn't work anything. That doesn't work because doesn't mean anything because the child, the katan here, the Yerush, has no clue that this thing belonged to his father. He's not a fellow expected to protest, right? Afilu higdal, the chiddush is even if he turns into an adult during this process, it's meaningless. Because when you went in there, he was still a katan, and now he's clueless as to the fact that this field used to belong to his father, really belongs to him now. So, in our case as well, if the chazaka and it was initiated during father's lifetime, now father passed away and we have a katan here, it's meaningless. So that's the chiddush of the Mishnah. That even chazaka sometimes doesn't work. Rav Huna mas nisan as lashmina. Now, if this is a Mishnah, then what's Rav Huna coming to teach us? It's a Mishnah. Iboy is saying one teretz. Rav Huna the yuka de mas nisan kamar. True, it's a Mishnah, but it's not clear in the Mishnah. It's a diuk, it's an inference. You got to work it out, and that's Rav Huna's job. He worked it out, and he taught us the halacha based on the Mishnah. Iboy is saying another pshat is Rav Huna is adding another element, another aspect to the halacha. Afilu higdal kamash malan. Oh. Let's realize that Rav Huna added another twist. You can't do chazaka on a katan's property. And the chiddush is even if he turns a gadol, it doesn't matter because if the tchilas chazaka, if you took possession of that land while the kid was a katan, how's he supposed to know? Even when he turns a gadol, how's he supposed to know that this thing is really something that belonged to his father and he should have protested? So it's all a matter of when you start. If you start the chazaka when he's a gadol, you expect him to protest, but otherwise, it's not a chazaka. And that's why the Mishnah discussed the father to teach us this chiddush. Well, the snai b'didei, the same exact halacha could have been expressed had we described the case as just being simple and straightforward. Shimon approaching Reuven, this thing used to belong to you and I bought it from you. And we could also include a great chiddush, a nice halacha regarding chazaka. V'lukma, we could establish it as follows. Kigoyin she'achlo shtayim b'fanav, v'achas shlei b'fanav. So the Mishnah will tell us, look, when Shimon approaches Reuven, claiming that he purchased it from him, and we have Edom. Right? That's in the second safe of the Mishnah. There's no pesha asa pesha hitter. The Edom are telling us that it used to belong to Reuven, and Shimon claims he purchased it. It's already 3 years later. Typically, that's chazaka. But no, we're speaking about a unique case. He used the field for 2 years in Reuven's presence when he should have protested, right? And the third year was out of sight. Reuven wasn't around. And that's why it doesn't work. The concept behind chazaka is, if it's yours, yell and scream, protest. Right? The fact that we remained silent for 3 years, that's the biggest proof that it's mine. But what happened was, although for the first 2 years he has a claim, you should have protested, but after 2 years the fellow disappeared. Reuven wasn't around to protest, and that's why it doesn't work. He's not expected to protest, and therefore sitting on his field doesn't say anything about ownership. So perhaps that's the chiddush of the Mishnah. But that doesn't work. Why? Okay, go in Shebarach. So we're speaking that this fellow disappeared. He escaped. He ran away. Asks the Gemara, well, why? What were the circumstances behind his escape? Barach machmas mai. What prompted his running away? Either barach machmas nefashos. He was a fugitive of the law. There was a capital punishment issued against him, and he disappeared. Right? Pshita d'lei mehemen. In this case, it's so simple and straightforward that the possessor of the property can't claim ownership. D'lei motzi machi. How could that fellow protest? He's in hiding. He's running away from the law. He's fleeing for his life. That's pashut. You don't need a mishnah for that. Sitting on his field at that moment doesn't say anything about ownership. If the reason for his running away was just related to financial matters or financial claims, that turns things around the other way. Then still the owner should have protested, even though he's sitting in the other country. The kaimla, we know for halacha, even if you protest a protest which is not in the presence, issued not in the presence of the possessor, havi macha, it constitutes macha. It's considered a protest, and it's legal, it's valid, it works, it's effective. So just because the fellow's out of town, he's not afraid of for his life. He's just running away from his creditors. He's still going to allow himself to send a message over and say, look, by the way, I know what you're doing to my field. I'm being meicha. Right? The fact that he didn't make that mecha is his problem. It's not. We'll prove it from a Mishnah that mecha shalei b'fanav is effective. Shalosh haratzas l'chazak. There are 3 separate portions of Eretz Yisrael regarding the halachos of chazak. Yehuda, that's one. Ve'ever ha'yardin, another. Ve'ever ha'gol is number 3. How does this play out? Hayibu Yehuda. The owner was sitting in Yehuda, ve'echsa b'gol, and a fellow takes possession of this person's property in the Golil area, in a different section. Or the other way around, Begolil, the owner is sitting in Golil, Ve'echsa b'Yehuda, and a fellow takes possession of his land in Yehuda. Ein chazaka. It doesn't work. Ad sheyehei imay b'Medina. Until the owner and the possessor are sitting in the same area, which allows for the news to travel, for me, the owner, to be notified about this fellow encroaching on my property, and for me, it allows me, the owner, to protest and send a message. There are travelers, there's communication. We have to be close enough to facilitate this process. V'avinu, we had a kasha on the Mishnah. We established 3 territories. Micah Savar, what's the Mishnah going with? What's the reasoning behind it? What's it based on? Ika Savar. Does the Mishnah hold macha shalei b'fanav have macha? A protest which is issued shalei b'fanav, away from the possessor. Havi macha is considered macha is effective because the news will travel to him. He'll find out that somebody protested against his possession, and this will prompt him, by the way, to hold on to the document because he sees this trouble brewing. And this pretty much makes the chazaka ineffective because you should have held on to your document. You can't claim, well, I'm there for 3 years without somebody protested. You should have been careful now to hold on to your document to prove your ownership. If that's the case, if the macha shalei b'fanav is effective, afilu b'Yehuda v'Galil nami. So then, even if they're in different areas, one fellow is in Yehuda, the other fellow in Galil, news travels. V'ikasava macha shalei b'fanav le'havi macha. Now, if the Mishnah holds that that a macha, a protest which was issued, shaloi b'fanav, not in the presence of the fellow taking possession, is not considered an effective macha. Who says the macha reached his ears? Afil Yehuda Yehuda Nami. If that's the case, so even if they're sitting in the same territory, they're in different cities, it's not considered an effective macha. Who says that the fellow holding onto your property heard about your macha? You have to go down there and protest in his presence directly. Afilu Yehuda Yehuda Nami loy. So what's the point of the three territories? It's a question of in front of him or not in front of him. The Mishnah certainly holds that a macha issued not in front of him works as well. News travels. He'll get a wind of the fact that somebody's making trouble. He'll hold on to his shtar. The Mishnah is speaking about emergency time when people are not traveling. It's wartime, whatever, and therefore news doesn't travel. And that's why if it's not in front of him, you never know if he heard about it. So why then does the Mishnah stress Yehuda and Gul, even if it's in the same territory, different cities, is shalei b'fanav? Why did the Mishnah cite Yehuda v'Gul as an example of shalei b'fanav? This time Yehuda v'Gul, the assumption is that Yehuda v'Gul don't get along with each other. There's not enough travelers from one to the other. K'shas cherem damu. It's like a shas cherem. It's like wartime, etc. When there were no travelers and the information doesn't really get relayed. So Yehuda v'Gul, because they're two distinct areas. Rashi says, and Rashbam Bava Basra says, even when there's peacetime and they get along with each other, there isn't enough travelers, aren't enough caravans, and there isn't effective communication between one area and the other. In which case, the chazakah system would not be effective. So, what did we learn today? We started with the Kalana v'chasuda, which is meant to be said in all cases, according to Beis Hillel. That's the way you are mishabeach one's purchase, in this case one's wife. You endear her on her husband, and that's the way to go. We have examples of chachamim who danced and did all kinds of performances and antics to a sameach chasen v'kala. We spoke about the great mitzvah that requires even bittul Torah in order to facilitate simchas chasen v'kala. We spoke about participating in a levaya as well, from the Beis HaMishta to the Beis HaAvel. We spoke about the simonim of the Besula's marriage and the simonim of the Almana, and we concluded with the concept of Pesha Asa, Pesha Hitter. If I volunteer the whole story, fine, I'm Naaman, but if there are Edom who tell us about the previous owner, then this fellow cannot claim that it's his unless he proves by way of document or by way of a proper chazaka. An example of improper chazaka would be that he started the chazaka during father's lifetime and concluded during the son's lifetime. The son is a cut and has no idea and is not expected to protest, in which case the chazaka doesn't prove anything. Likewise, we had a discussion regarding shalei b'fanav. Suppose this fellow is not around and shalei b'fanav, according to some shittos, macha shalei b'fanav is not a macha. According to others, it is a macha, because news does travel, except when it's extraordinary circumstances, when we know for a fact there's little travel, little communication between the areas, in which case, the chazaka in this case wouldn't work. All the best to you, and much hatzlacha.